What is the latest update on birthright citizenship in the United States? That's what we're talking about on today's episode of Live at Lunch. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law, and this is a complicated topic that is difficult to understand. The concept of birthright citizenship itself is not particularly complicated, but instead the developments, recent developments. So let's talk about it. First of all, the idea of birthright citizenship is something that some countries have, some countries don't. The United States absolutely has very clearly the right to birthright citizenship. It comes in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which states very clearly all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are United States citizens. Pretty clear. The Trump administration, as you may know, has wanted to challenge birthright citizenship, even though it is literally baked, not literally, but even though it is baked into the Constitution, even though it is black and white, literally, in the Constitution. And the Trump administration did that the very first day that they took office, January 20th of 2025, or they tried to, through an executive order. That executive order in part denies citizenship, I can't say that word today, denies US citizenship to certain individuals born in the United States, specifically to individuals that are born to a mother that is unlawfully present in the United States and the father is not a US citizen or legal permanent resident, also known as a green card holder. And it denies citizenship to individuals that were born or are born to a mother that is legally present in the United States, but temporarily, so on a temporary visa classification, and the father is not a US citizen or permanent resident. As you can imagine, as you probably know, this executive order that came out January 20th was immediately challenged in federal court. There were a number of states, exactly 22 states that sued, as well as some other parties that sued the US government saying that this is unconstitutional. It goes directly against what the Constitution says. On June 27th of 2025, so just a couple of weeks ago, the Supreme Court came out with a decision on this particular case, on this litigation. However, the decision, as you probably have heard, did not directly address whether the executive order was constitutional or unconstitutional. Instead, they skirted the issue and they said that there is a limited ability for district judges to grant, quote, universal relief in cases where the government is facially violating the Constitution, or potentially violating the Constitution. And basically the Supreme Court has said that the nationwide injunction that the lawsuit was seeking does not apply. Instead, the injunction, and when I say injunction, I mean a temporary stay. So in other words, the Supreme Court said, okay, those 22 states that sued, that are specifically part of the lawsuit, the temporary injunction, it applies to you all, but not to the remaining states who did not sue. In addition, it is a temporary injunction. It doesn't mean that birthright citizenship absolutely applies forever and ever in those 22 states that sued. It means that for now, while the litigation is ongoing, the Trump's executive order cannot be enforced. So in other words, for right now, for those 22 states that sued, the executive order does not apply. So in other words, again, the Supreme Court didn't decide on the actual issue of whether the executive order is constitutional or unconstitutional, but instead only said that district judges don't have the ability to grant universal relief, meaning to give these nationwide injunctions. That means that now, so what's next? What do we do with this? That means basically now that for birthright citizenship and for other types of litigation as well, there has to be a nationwide class. That's basically what the Supreme Court decision says. There has to be a nationwide class for there to be a nationwide injunction. So in other words, all states have to sue, which is big, or individuals can sue. So there could be hundreds or even thousands of individual lawsuits against the government, which means that individuals have to have the resources and the time and the know-how, or engage legal counsel to be able to file these lawsuits. This is huge, not only for birthright citizenship, it's deeply concerning for just the topic of birthright citizenship. But also it goes beyond that. They made a wider statement, a much broader statement that, like I said, the nationwide injunction no longer will apply unless there's actually a nationwide class. So for right now, going forward, here's where we stand. Like I said, the executive order, there's still a temporary injunction against the executive order from January 20th in the 22 states that sued. Virginia, unfortunately, is not amongst the 22 states that sued. But for now, in the 22 states that sued, there is a temporary injunction, meaning that executive order does not apply right now. That's a very strange situation for immigration lawyers, for immigration law practitioners, for those in the immigration law space, because immigration law is a federal law and it's unusual. It's not unheard of. There have been other state-specific issues before, but it's unusual to have different rules or policies in different states. Usually it applies nationwide, but for right now, that's where we are. So in the 22 states that sued, the executive order is enjoined. There's a temporary stay. It's not going to be applied for right now while the litigation plays out. For the other states that were not involved in this, that did not sue, the executive order supposedly will go forward. The court order from the Supreme Court says within 30 days, which would make it July 27th, that it supposedly would go forward. That means that potentially a couple of things. It means potentially that, yes, the executive order would go forward. It could be that there is additional litigation between now, if state specific or individual specific, it just depends. There's a lot that could happen. In other words, in the next 30 days. And the other thing is, we don't know for sure whether this executive order is retroactive or only going forward. My reading of it is that it only applies to individuals who are born in the United States, at least as of February 20th of 2025, which was 30 days after the executive order came out. However, I could be totally wrong on that. I know it's a discussion amongst us immigration attorneys as to whether it's retroactive or whether it only applies to children born going forward. Again, that's my interpretation, that it only would apply to children going forward. If it's going to apply at all, I'm cautiously optimistic that there will be additional litigation. I'm not a litigator myself, but I'm cautiously optimistic that there will be additional litigation. I really hope there has to be, or I really hope that there is. There has to be pushback against this, because this is deconstructing, taking away the power of the Constitution, which has been the foundation of laws in the United States since it was created, since the United States was birthed. So this information is not particularly, I won't say hopeful, but it's not particularly encouraging right now, right? I wish, of course, that the Supreme Court had come out and said, yes, of course, this is unconstitutional. But that's not what we have. That's not where we are right now. So what you can do going forward is to make sure you know where your state stands on this particular issue and keep up with the developments. We will keep posting information on our social media platforms and our email newsletter, on my personal LinkedIn profile as well, updates about what's happening with this particular matter. But it's critical that you stay updated as to what's going on, and then talk to an immigration lawyer. If you're not sure if this is going to impact you, have a conversation with an immigration lawyer to determine if this is going to impact you, and if so, how, and make a plan. We are here. I know this is a really, really stressful time to be a foreign national in the United States, or to employ foreign nationals, or to live with and love foreign nationals here in the United States. But we, the immigration lawyer community, are here for you to help you get through these trying times and beyond. I hope you found this information helpful, as not encouraging as it may be. If so, I hope you will share this video with a friend or a family member or a colleague. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss our next video. And contact us if you need a consultation. If you want to have a consultation about beginning a case, if you have questions about potentially exploring your options, we are here to help. There'll be a slide after this with our contact information so that you can reach out to us. I hope that this information was helpful and that you will join us for our next live at lunch. Until then, my name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law.